Today I want to show you how to create a calculator in Java Swing. So let's start. I already created a package. I called it calculator package. Then we will create a Java class. I will call it calculator. And then we will extend or inherit JFrame, and we will implement action listener. Action listener interface has only one method called action performed, so we have to add that. And before we create the constructor, we have to create variables for the calculator. I already created the variables. This is a variable that would format the numbers. If we have a number that is thousands that has a comma, we will use a decimal format. Here, the next variable is a string array that contains all the symbols that the calculator should have. It will have the default 0 to 9, and it will have plus, minus, multiply, and divide. It will also have equal sign, all clear, negative operator, and percentage. So that's all the symbols and buttons the calculator would have. Then the next variable is an operator integer variable that will hold the operator that is pressed. Then we create a panel, JPanel, to hold the buttons, the button panel, and then we created a button panel that would hold the buttons. And next, I created a JButton array that would have 20 elements, 20 buttons. These are the symbols, all the button symbols here. So I created a JButton array. Here next, I created the screen or JText area. This is where the result will appear, the screen, and it will have 5 rows and 40 columns. Next is we need this one. Next, I created 2 variables, double variables. This will hold the first number, and this would hold the second number. And lastly, I created, this is optional, it's not necessary, I created a JText field variable or a component that would show us the calculation as we do it at the bottom of the panel. So let's create a constructor for this. And we will say init, and we will create a method to initialize all the components. The last one would be set visible. It will be true. Set default close operation, exit on close, and the size would be 340 by 400. And we already created the panels, the 2 panels, and we set the layout. The first one would have a border layout, which will have 5 pixels horizontal gap and 5 pixels vertical gap. And the second panel, which will hold all the buttons, would have a grid layout, and it will have 5 rows and 3 columns. We also need to separate we need a separator, two columns, and two horizontal gap and two vertical gap. So after we initialize the frame, we have to add the panel to the frame. Then we have to set the background of the screen to black. We also have to set the foreground to white, because we want to have a white text on a black background. We also need to set the background of the panel to black. And also we need to set the button panel as well to black. So before the screen, we have to set the title to calculator, the title of the frame. After that, we have to instantiate all the buttons. We just created the array, so we have to instantiate it here. So we'll say for int I 0, I less than buttons length incremented by 1. Then we say buttons I equal new j button, and the button would contain, each button would contain a symbol, and the way we can get the symbols is to use this array. So we will say symbols of I. Then lastly, we'll say a button panel, add buttons of I. But before that, we want to set the background. We say set opaque set opaque to false. The buttons set border painted to false. So say buttons of I set background color black. Buttons of I set foreground to white. You also have to attach an action listener to each button. So we have to say buttons of I add action listener to this. And the reason we have access to this is because we implemented here the action listener. If we remove this, we wouldn't have this keyword. So I think that's it for the buttons. Also, we have to add the screen to the panel. Say add screen. We will say border layout to north, because we want to see the screen at the top of the frame of the panel. And we also have to add the button panel to the panel. We say button panel and border layout to center. You have to set all the buttons to the center, and let's create a main method, and we'll say calculator. think it will work. Let's see it. As you can see, here are all the numbers and symbols. If we press any of them, nothing happens because we haven't implemented that yet. But everything is working just fine so far. I also want to add the calculating text field. We'll say panel add calculating text field, and we will say border layout after, I will say south. And after that, you have to go to the action performed method to execute the numbers. First, we have to get the number or the button the user pressed. Say string command equals e.get action command dot to string. Then we have to create a switch statement that would take the command. And if it is a case period or decimal, what do we want to do at that point? If the user presses period. First, we have to check if the screen already has another decimal point, because we don't want to see two decimal points in one number, because that doesn't make any sense when you are calculating something. So as long as we say if exclamation point screen get text contains, as long as the screen doesn't contain a period or a decimal point, as long as the screen doesn't have that, we want to add the decimal point. But first we have to get, not get text, set text. First we have to get whatever number already in the screen. You have to get that first. Then we have to add it to the period. Because if we remove this, each time the user presses a button or a period, it will remove the number that's already there. So we don't want that. We want to add to whatever number that is already there. So we'll say case 0 period, and we would basically do the same thing. In this case, we don't care if there is already another 0, because there is nothing wrong with having too many zeros. But there is a problem with too many decimal points when you are trying to calculate something. Then we'll say screen get text and 0. I will complete all the cases and I will come back. I will pause the recording and I will come back. I completed all the cases from 0 to 9. So basically I did the same thing. I get whatever the number in the screen, and I appended whichever number the user pressed. If it is 8, I appended 8. If it's 7, I appended 7, 9 for 9, and so forth. It's really easy. But here's the tricky part. Whenever the user presses an operation, let's say plus, is different than regular numbers, because we have to get the fairest number and we store it somewhere and then clear the screen and then go to the next number that the person wants to either add, divide, multiply, or subtract. So the first thing we have to check is if there is a number already, because sometimes the people, without entering a number, they just press an operation, right? They will press a plus or minus or a multiply, which in that case we don't have anything to operate on. So we have to first check if there is a number already. We'll say if exclamation point screen get text is empty, right? As long as the screen is not empty, which means there is a number already, what we want to is to get the first number, and we say double parse screen get text to string. So the person would come to the application, and he or she will write some number, right? And then once he finishes the numbers, he or she would press the plus button or an operation. So when the user presses an operation, what we want to is to store whatever number the person already entered, and then we have to clear the screen so that the person can enter another number, either to add or subtract or to do whatever. So after we get the first number, we want to clear the screen because we want to give the opportunity to enter the second number. So that would be it for this operation. We have to copy this for multiple times, and we will say minus, and there would be no difference. We will get the first number and we will clear the screen, and here we will say x for multiplication, and lastly we have to copy this simple, which is division, and here for division. I also forgot to add here, after we get the first number, for the addition operator, we have to get the operator number. We will call it 1 for addition. We will call operator, we will call the minus for number 2. We will call the multiplication 3, and lastly for division we will call 4. And the reason we are doing this is because we want to identify which operation the user pressed. Once we reach here at the end of the after the switch statements, we have to check if the user, we say command, if the user pressed the equal sign. If the user pressed equal sign, that means he or she is ready to see the results. So again, we will check if there is a second number. Sometimes what happens, they type some number and they press a plus button or minus or multiplication or division, and then without entering the second number, they just press the equal sign, which there's nothing to calculate at that point. We just have only one number, right? So we'll say if exclamation point or negation operator is empty. If it is not empty, the screen is not empty, that means there is the second number. Then we want to collect that second number, and we will say screen get text to string. Then we have to use switch statements on the operator, and say if the case is 1, meaning the user pressed the addition operator, we want to add the two numbers. Say screen set text, say string value of first number plus second number. We also want to show in the second text field, we will say calculating text field set text string value of, say, first say plus second and plus, we will say first, taking too long here, we'll say first plus second number. So all we have to do is we have to copy this, and we have to say based. The second one would be subtraction, right? So we have to change this to minus, and we have to change this to minus, and here we have to change to minus. Copy again, and this would be multiplication, and we'll say multiply x, and here multiply, and one last time it will say division, which would be number 4. Here would be divide, here would be divide, and here would be divide. and we don't have a default, but I will add it anyway. So let me remove this. So first thing, we checked if the user pressed the equal sign, and if it is, if the user pressed the equal sign, then we check if there is a second number or there is a number on the screen. If there is, then we captured the second number, right? Then we created a switch statement that would check which operation the person pressed. If it is 1, that means the user chose addition, and we add it. We add the two numbers. If it is 2, that means it's subtraction. We subtract the two numbers. If it is 3, that means multiplication, and we multiply the two numbers. And if it is 4, that means the user pressed the division. So let's run the program and see if we are correct. Let me change the background of the second second text field. We'll say calculating set foreground color white, calculating set background color black, and you run it again. Okay, let's say we have 80 plus 25. It should give us 105. As you can see here, 80 plus 25 is 105. Let's say we want to subtract 105, 50. Is 105 minus 50 is 55. That's correct, because 55 plus 50 is 105. How about if we want to multiply 55 by 5? 55 times 5 is 275. I think it's correct. And let's divide 275 by 5. As you can see, 275 divided by 5 is 55. Essentially, we reverse what we did on the multiplication. So our program works. So let's say if we want to get, if we can get a negative number, if we add okay, 60. Let's say make negative 90. It gives us, when we subtract 60, when we subtract 90 from 60, we get negative 30. all the buttons work just fine except these three buttons. I will not do this advanced button, but I will do this, which will give us any number to its negative equivalent. I didn't also had any functionality for the all clear. So let's add the all clear functionality. So at the bottom of the if statements, we will say case AC, meaning all clear. What we want is, you'll say screen set text to nothing. Also, we say if it is %, basically the person wants to get the percentage of that number. So if we press 8, when we press percentage, it should give as the decimal format of that 0.08. So we'll say double number get then we have to say screen set text string value of num divided by 100. So whatever number you just divide by 100 to get the percentage or the decimal format, the decimal version of it. Then we also need the negative button. We have to work on that. If the person clicks here, we have to get the negative version of any number. If the person presses 4 and then presses this number, the negative number, we have to get a -4. So basically we copy this, we'll say neg, and we will say neg times plus times equal and -1, and then we have to set to the screen value of neg. So let's run the program and see if we got it correct. Okay, the numbers are too small. Let's fix that. If we go to the method, init method, we can say screen set font, new font. You can say times new Roman, and we say font bold, and we can say 18 point. So let's see how big this font is. I think now it's a little bit better. Then we say you have to check if the all clear works. It works. So 7, how about the negative? It should give as -7, -7.0. And if we press it again, it should give us a regular 7. Okay, how about the percentage? It will give us 0.07. Let's say I want to know 50 as a percentage. 0.5. How about 12.5? If I want to know what percentage equivalent this would be, I will just press this and it will give us 0.125. And if I divide this by 2, 0.125 divided by 2 is this amount. I also didn't implement, we haven't used this class, the decimal format. You know, we want to use this because sometimes we have a large number that has a commas, that need commas. So we have to use this. And in the calculating text field, this is where we want to use it. Copy this, we say df format and paste it. And we will do the same for this one. df format and paste it. Here, copy df format and paste it. Copy this, df format and paste it. I think we're done for all the operations. So let's run one more time and see if there is commas in the number. Let's say 78 times 145. They gave us 11,310 10.00. If we times 9, 101 and 101,790. 0.00 plus 0.52. Here it's not formatted here, but the final result we formatted it. So I think that would do it for this little project calculator. Thank you for watching, and if you need the code, let me know. I will post it on my GitHub account, and I will link it in the description. Thank you, and if you like these kind of videos, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.